has had the better week? When we compare Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage, who has had the better week? Who's going to be heading towards the weekend thinking, do you know what? That's been a blinder of a week. Now, if you look at it on the surface, you might just go, as obvious, it's Big Nige, right? Because he's got two Tory defectors. Remember Nadeem Hazari? Yeah, I know, a week is a long time in politics. He joined, and then yesterday we had Jenrick. Though equally, you could look at Kemi Badenoch, and let's be honest, Robert Jenrick has been a massive pain in the backside for Kemi Badenoch ever since he lost the leadership campaign. And now he's gone. And I would say he's gone under a cloud, because I don't think personally he comes out of this too well. If you're able to put the politics to one side just a little bit, as an individual, he looks a bit dodged, doesn't he? Because only a few days ago, there he was in a shadow cabinet meeting, taking notes, pretending he was interested, and I suspect those notes have now gone to Reform UK's headquarters in Millbank, in SW1. Does this kind of stuff matter? What does it do for faith in politics? 0344 499 1000. Voice note me, WhatsApp me, call me. We can talk. What does this mean for the Conservative Party? What does this mean for Reform UK? And who has had the better week, Nige or Kemi? But the thing I really want to get into, because I don't think this has been discussed enough, is this idea of a by-election. Because you now have a sitting MP in the House of Commons, and I'm struggling this morning at 10:08 on Talk to think about what his mandate is. Where is his mandate? Who voted for him? What's he scared of? Because all of the polling suggests that if there were to be a by-election, Reform would win. So he would hold on to his seat. Am I being unfair? Am I being unreasonable? And before we talk to Lord Hayward, Conservative Peer and Pollster, there's a bit of a track record here with defecting Conservative MPs to Reform. And just for the record, I'm not here to bash Reform. I think Nigel Farage is our greatest politician of the 21st century. I think he's done remarkable things, right? And put my cards on the table. I've known him for 16 years. Election day 2010, I was there when his plane crashed and I helped drag him out of the wreckage, right? So, you know, I know him. But I'm also an independent journalist, all right? And I can ask questions, and I should ask questions. And this is a fact. The last MP who defected from the Conservatives to Reform UK, Danny Kruger, he's a Wiltshire MP, he didn't have a by-election either. So surely if you want to say, look, we are a serious political party, we have the people behind us, you would have by-elections, particularly in the case of Robert Jenrick, the latest defector, some say snake, I couldn't possibly comment, who's now gone to Reform UK. Why is he not called a by-election? Because everything suggests they would win. Let's get a view on this from Lord Robert Hayward, Conservative Peer and Pollster. Good morning.
Good morning.
You might have heard my rambling on there about this idea of a by-election, Robert. I'm struck this morning that if you look at some of the polling that's out there, if Robert Jenrick decided to call a by-election to have a fresh mandate from the people of Newark, his constituency, he would actually win. So what's your take on this? Why has he not done so?
There's a tradition, and I'm not saying that it's right, but there is a tradition in Britain that people do not stand for by-elections when they defect. There have been, this issue arises every single time somebody defects from one party or another, and it is no question a fair issue to raise. And I think it's the responsibility of the relevant MP concerned to explain to his electorate why, his or her electorate, sorry, why they are not taking that action. And then if they don't hold a by-election, it can clearly be the decision of the constituents at the next general election. I wouldn't make it mandatory, but it's certainly a fair question that you should ask members of Parliament who change parties.
Yeah, and we're keen to get the views of listeners and viewers to talk this morning about this, whether or not it's tradition, whether or not that it matters. But it does seem to me that he's effectively crossed the floor and he doesn't have a mandate in terms of his current position. And I get everything that you said, and we'll talk to one of his constituents a little bit later on and find out what they're thinking about this. Just give me and our listeners and viewers a sense this morning, Robert, of your take on the last 24 hours, which has just been remarkable, hasn't it?
It has been truly remarkable. There's no question. I've been in politics far too long And you always think, well, whatever happens, I've seen it before in some form or another. But yesterday morning, I'd never seen anything like that before. There was a series of events. I appeared on Talk as my first media interview, and I had not seen what Kemi had said. I'd seen the script, but I'd not seen her actual statement. And it was so striking to have the leader of a political party sitting there very authoritatively and very calmly saying, I've sacked a member of my shadow cabinet and withdrawn his party membership. It's something like I've never seen before. There are, I think the general assessment is that Kemi got the first few hours right. There was no question she had seized the initiative and she displayed an authority. One then comes on to the question of defections and the long-term impact on reform. We won't see in the opinion polls, and this is a major event. Political events generally don't influence opinion polls in any way, and there is always flash opinion polls that say this, that, or the other. But you won't see an impact on this subject for about 10 days to 2 weeks, because that's how long it takes people. They meet their mates at the pub, at the sports clubs, they talk to their families, social media nowadays, and that's when people frame their views about what has happened yesterday in particular.
Yes, you're bang on the money. Every evening I walk my dog. We always end up in the local pub, and there are a couple of blokes in there that I've known for probably about 3 or 4 years now. One is Danny, the other was Russ. Danny said, because they're engaged in politics, Danny said it's just another Tory joining reform. I don't like it. Whereas Russ said the political revolution continues. So I wonder whether or not we'll see those views filtered through the polling inside the next 10 days. Who do you think is coming out of this in the best possible way? Is it Kemi Badenoch? Is it Nigel Farage?
There's no doubt in my mind. When I watched the playback of Kemi's statement yesterday on this channel, as far as I was concerned, Kemi displayed an authority which she has displayed over recent weeks and months, which you and I think, have discussed. But so I think in the short term, she came out of it well. What we won't know, and it comes back to the issue of polling and the events of the next few days and the like, is whether that authority, that air that she conveyed, means that she does come out of it well, better than Nigel Farage, or whether the very fact that he has acquired a defector of substance is the deciding factor over a period of a few days, if not a few weeks. I just as a further comment, you asked about Kemi and Nigel, but I think I would also make the comment that the person who's come out of it badly is Robert Jenrick, because clearly he'd been plotting, could think of better words possibly, but over the last few months, it was only because of a leak of something from his office that people got notice of it in advance, but he'd clearly been planning on this for a number of months. And I actually been up to Newark a few months ago and campaigned briefly with him in a local council by-election. Right. And I've spoken to him on a number of occasions, but I could not claim that he's a friend or I know him well. But his assault yesterday and the rewriting of political history really didn't put him in a very good light.
Robert, before we let you go, I'm keen for you to hear and for viewers to see a couple of clips that we've got here, because I think there's potentially trouble brewing in the reform camp, given the two egos of Nigel Farage and Robert Jenrick. So let's just explore the political tensions. First off, here's a clip of Nigel calling Jenrick a fraud.
Jenrick, under him as immigration minister, we got up to 56,000 people who'd crossed the channel by boat living in hotels. He put more people in hotels than even this Labour government. And here we are 3 years later, and he turns up and says, I'm on your side. My advice to you would be to say, this man is a fraud, this man is not to be trusted.
So that's the leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage, talking about Robert Jenrick, I think in September of last year. Was it September 2024? Certainly 5 months ago. And here's Robert Jenrick saying he wouldn't trust Farage to run a five-a-side football team.
Nigel Farage can't even run a five-a-side team, so he's not going to be able to run a country. They're not a serious party. We may have sympathy with some of the things that they say. We may understand why millions of our fellow countrymen and women have gone to reform, but they are not the answer.
Lord Hayward, you could argue that's just simple politics, but do you think potentially there's an issue coming down the tracks when you've got those views that are relatively new and a couple of big egos now in the same party?
Being in the palace at Westminster, I am surrounded by people with big egos. Yeah. But I think it's fair to say that both Robert and Nigel have egos which are way above the vast majority of people in here. The potential for clash between the two is substantial, and in the case of Nigel Farage, he has previous behind him in that he has fallen out with large numbers of people he's previously attempted to work with. So on the balance of probability, the chances of a clash in the near future is probably fairly high.
And a final question, there is a view that's circulating this morning, or indeed yesterday afternoon, with Robert Jenrick going. This may well open up other defections from the Conservatives. Tory big beast going to reform. What's your take on that?
I think that there is an unsettling nature about it. There will be talk about further defections, and one has to wait and see. Nigel Farage has said that his next big defection is going to be somebody from the Labour Party. Yeah. But we are in a state of British politics at the moment where people are leaving parties in all sorts of different directions, and I think the chances of further defections to and from other parties is fairly high. Lord
Robert Hayward, Conservative peer and pollster, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us on Talk this morning. I'm just going to do a